What unfolds when a CEO places an order at his own diner and uncovers the reality behind the cheerful faces? Jacob Reed, the head of a modest diner chain boasting 13 locations, had crafted his enterprise from the ground up over the past 10 years. He took great pride in fostering a welcoming environment for families. Yet recently, something seemed amiss. Complaints from customers regarding sluggish service and impolite staff had been accumulating. Employee turnover reached unprecedented levels. Jacob's regional managers confidently assured him that all was well, yet the reports contradicted the murmurs he had been picking up. Driven by frustration and a fierce resolve to uncover the truth, Jacob made the bold choice to go undercover at one of his locations. He chose a diner nestled in a quiet suburban town, a 2-hour drive from his corporate office. It was distant enough that he would remain unrecognized, as the majority of his employees had never encountered him face to face. In an effort to blend in seamlessly, Jacob allowed a scruffy beard to flourish, swapped his sharp tailored suits for a comfortable, worn-out hoodie and jeans, and donned a pair of thick-rimmed glasses. He bore no resemblance to the refined executive showcased on the company website. He strolled into the diner during the lunch rush, the atmosphere alive with lively conversations and the sound of clattering dishes. The dining area appeared tidy yet somewhat antiquated, with the booth showing signs of wear. It wasn't awful, yet it fell short of the inviting and friendly atmosphere Jacob had imagined when he launched the company. A weary-eyed young waitress made her way to him, her name tag identifying her as Megan. "Hello. Welcome," she said, her voice bright yet tinged with tension. "Would you like me to pour you a refreshing beverage to begin with?" Jacob observed the subtle shadows beneath her eyes and the uncertainty that lingered in her smile. There was an unsettling quality about her, yet he chose to ignore it. "Just coffee, thanks," he said, settling into a booth by the window. Megan nodded and swiftly made her way through the tables, moving with a skillful grace. Jacob observed her skillfully managing a flurry of orders, replenishing drinks, and collecting plates from the kitchen with effortless grace. Despite being clearly overworked, she maintained a composed demeanor in front of the customers, never revealing her frustration. Upon Megan's return with his coffee, Jacob placed an order for a burger and fries. While she jotted down her thoughts on the notepad, a deep voice resonated from the kitchen. "Megan, why the delay? Seems you're lagging once more." The voice came from a compact, robust man in his 40s, clad in a soiled apron. Jacob assumed he was the shift manager, as he hadn't introduced himself upon entering, a detail that Jacob took note of. Megan recoiled slightly at the tone but responded with a quick nod. "Just a moment," she replied, her voice wavering a bit. Jacob scowled. He established this business with the belief that employees deserve to feel appreciated, rather than criticized in front of customers. He took a slow sip of his coffee, contemplating whether to continue observing. While he sat in anticipation of his meal, fragments of dialogue from nearby tables drifted into his ears. A family seated at the booth behind him expressed their frustration over the lengthy wait for their meal. 2 teenagers exchanged hushed remarks regarding the manager's impolite behavior towards their waitress earlier. The ambience was charged, a stark contrast to the warm, inviting diner scene Jacob had imagined. Megan presented his burger with an apology for the wait. "Apologies for the delay," she murmured, her gaze drifting away. "No worries," Jacob replied, a faint smile gracing his lips. "You're excelling wonderfully." Her gaze darted upward for an instant, taken aback, before she nodded and rushed away once more. Jacob had just begun to savor his meal when he caught the faint sound of muffled sobbing drifting from the kitchen. He halted, his fork suspended mid-air, just shy of his lips. The noise intensified, becoming unmistakable at last. Megan was the one. He placed his fork aside and focused intently on the sounds around him. "I'm giving it my all right?" Her voice shattered the silence that lingered in the thin walls. "I've been at it for 6 hours straight, giving it my all." The manager's voice intruded, curt and incisive. "If the pressure feels overwhelming, perhaps this isn't the right role for you. Excuses are not an option for us." Jacob felt a knot in his stomach. He was restless. He slipped out of the booth, abandoning his half-eaten burger, and made his way toward the kitchen door. The sight before him caused a constriction in his chest. Megan stood, her hands shaking as she brushed away tears with the back of her sleeve. The manager towered above her, arms folded, his expression contorted with irritation. Two cooks averted their gazes from the unfolding scene, visibly uneasy yet hesitant to intervene. Jacob tightened his fists, his heart racing. This was not the enterprise he had created. "Is there an issue present?" Jacob inquired, his tone steady yet resolute. The manager spun around, taken aback. "Oh, it seems there was just a slight misunderstanding." Megan shook her head, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Apologies escaped her lips in a soft whisper. Jacob looked at her, then back at the manager. "He has yet to disclose his identity." "Rather," he remarked, "she appears to be in need of a respite." The manager scoffed, questioning why she couldn't take a seat for a few moments. "We're currently experiencing a shortage of staff." Amidst the frenzy, pauses are a luxury we can't afford. Jacob's jaw clenched. "There is always an opportunity to show respect to others," he stated calmly. The atmosphere in the room was charged as Jacob locked eyes with the manager. He realized that remaining silent was no longer an option. The manager's lips formed a tight line, yet before he could utter a word, a slender young cook with a jittery demeanor interjected. "Megan has been on the go ever since she started her shift. She hasn't even found a moment to take a sip of water." His voice wavered, yet a subtle defiance lingered in his tone as the manager cast him a sharp glare. "Keep your distance, Connor. Focus on your station." Jacob's gaze darted to Connor before returning to the manager. "And who is responsible for ensuring that your team can concentrate? It appears to me that the strain is arising from the way this establishment is managed." The manager's face turned crimson, his confidence wavering for just an instant. "Listen, I'm simply fulfilling my responsibilities. If individuals find it difficult to cope, that's not my responsibility." Jacob's expression grew steely. "We'll find out soon enough." Megan, her eyes still glistening, gazed at Jacob, a mix of bewilderment and appreciation crossing her face. "I'll be fine," she muttered, her voice trembling slightly. She pivoted to face the door, yet Jacob softly restrained her. "Take 5, he murmured gently. "You truly deserve it." The manager began to voice his objections, yet Jacob raised a hand, his tone unmistakably final. "She is stepping away for a moment." At that moment, Megan paused, her gaze darting anxiously between Jacob and the manager, before she finally nodded and made her way through the swinging kitchen doors. Jacob refocused on the manager, his voice steady yet resolute. "May I ask what your name is?" "Rick," the man responded, his tone brimming with defensiveness. "And who do you think you are, coming in here and dictating how I should manage my shift?" Jacob brushed aside the inquiry. "Rick, how long have you held the position of manager here?" Rick crossed his arms. "Approximately 2 years. I've managed to keep this place operating smoothly, so I certainly don't require an unexpected patron coming in. And you consider this acceptable?" Jacob interjected, his tone elevating just a touch. "Your team is stretched thin, your clients are voicing their frustrations, and you're reprimanding individuals during their work hours. That's not acceptable. It's chaotic." Rick started to voice his disagreement, but Jacob interrupted him once more. "Consider reflecting on your treatment of others. I assure you, if I were in a position of authority, this would not be acceptable." Rick's complexion dimmed for a moment, yet he swiftly attempted to conceal it with a dismissive scoff. "Indeed. Well, you're not in charge here," so before he could complete his thought, the kitchen doors swung open and Megan stepped back in, her expression a bit more settled. With her gaze lowered, she moved past Rick and made her way back to the dining area. Jacob chose to take a moment to pause and reflect once more. With a final, piercing glance at Rick, he pivoted and trailed after Megan into the dining room. At his booth, Jacob observed Megan as she seamlessly slipped back into her routine. She progressed at a more leisurely pace now, her fatigue evident, yet she still offered a faint smile to each customer she attended to. Jacob observed her attentively assisting a young mother who was having difficulty keeping her toddler engaged, providing crayons and a paper menu for the little one to color on. He caught sight of Rick's intense gaze directed at her from the kitchen window. Jacob pulled out his phone and quietly began jotting down notes. He meticulously noted all his observations regarding Rick's behavior, Megan's workload, and the complaints from customers. He also observed Connor's subtle support for his colleague. Once he had completed his meal, Jacob signaled to Megan. "Could I please have the check?" he inquired, maintaining a cheerful tone. She nodded and swiftly retrieved it, along with the receipt. "Thank you for coming by, and I apologize once more for what happened earlier," she murmured softly. "No need to apologize," Jacob said, casually sliding some cash into the billfold. "You're doing wonderfully." Her cheeks tinged with a soft blush, and she gave a subtle, heartfelt smile. "Thank you very much." As she turned to leave, Jacob resolved to take action. He had only just begun, not by a long shot. He rose, took hold of his jacket, and proceeded toward the door. Yet, just before departing, he hesitated and cast a look over his shoulder at the dining room. Megan deftly refilled a customer's coffee, her actions both precise and purposeful. Rick was issuing commands to Connor in the kitchen. Jacob's jaw clenched. He swung the door open and ventured outside, retrieving his phone from his pocket. "Janet," he instructed when his assistant picked up, "I need you to free up my calendar for tomorrow. Please gather all available information regarding the staff at the specified suburb location. Personnel records, evaluations of performance, everything included." "Understood," Janet responded promptly. "Is there anything more?" Jacob cast a final look at the diner before making his way to his car. "Indeed," he remarked. "Ensure that my regional managers are prepared for the upcoming meeting. It's time for a conversation." He ended the call and settled into the driver's seat, his thoughts already swirling with ideas. Tomorrow, Jacob would not merely be a spectator. He was poised to make his move. The following morning, Jacob stepped into the diner right after it opened, donning the same disheveled disguise he had worn the previous day. This time, he tucked a small notebook into his pocket, fueled by a fresh wave of resolve. He was done watching from the sidelines. The morning shift unfolded with a serene stillness, allowing Jacob the opportunity to watch and reflect, unencumbered by the frenzy of the lunch rush. Megan was already on the floor, her movements intentional yet more measured than the previous day. She appeared increasingly fatigued, her smile more fragile. Though Rick had yet to make an appearance, Connor busied himself in the kitchen, meticulously preparing the ingredients. Jacob held back until Megan strolled past with a coffee pot. Then he beckoned her over. "Hey, Megan," he said, maintaining a relaxed tone. "Do you have a moment?" She paused, her eyes flickering to the handful of patrons spread throughout the diner. "Of course, but I won't be able to linger. We're a bit understaffed at the moment." "I won't take up your time," Jacob assured. "I was curious to know how long you've been with the company." She stared at the question, visibly taken aback. "Approximately 8 months. What is the reason?" Jacob inclined his body a fraction, softening his tone. "It appears that you have quite a bit weighing on you." Megan hesitated, her eyes flitting toward the kitchen window. "Is it always this busy?" "It's not always the customers. Sometimes it is." She trailed off, biting her lip. "Isn't it Rick?" Jacob inquired softly. Her head jerked up, and for an instant, a look of panic crossed her face. "I ought not to." "You don't need to say a word," Jacob interjected, his tone gentle. "I simply wish to grasp your experience in this place." Megan paused once more, letting out a weary sigh. "It's not solely about him. It's the entirety of the situation. We're perpetually understaffed, and during chaotic times, he only exacerbates the situation. I'm aware he's facing his own challenges, yet it often seems like we bear the brunt of it all." Jacob nodded, thoughts swirling in his head. He resolved to delve a bit deeper. "What's the situation with Connor?" "It appears that he makes an effort to assist." Megan's expression eased just a bit. "Connor is fantastic. Though he's only been here a short time, He stands out as one of the rare individuals who genuinely cares. He supports others during their tough times. Truthfully, without his support, I likely would have given up by now. Just as Jacob was about to pose another question, the kitchen door swung open, and Rick stepped out, his presence instantly altering the atmosphere in the room. Megan felt a tightness in her shoulders and swiftly made her way to refill a customer's coffee. Rick appeared oblivious to Jacob's presence as he issued commands to Connor, who quietly complied, focused on chopping the vegetables. Jacob's jaw clenched as he observed. This was more than mere stress. It was a recurring theme. Jacob observed the morning unfold, noting Rick's interactions with the staff and the team's ability to navigate the palpable tension. As the lunch rush commenced, the diner returned to its familiar rhythm, with Megan darting between tables once more. The first incident unfolded sooner than expected. An older gentleman in a flannel shirt approached Megan to express his dissatisfaction with the overcooked eggs he received. Megan expressed her regrets and suggested that the kitchen prepare new ones. "Could you please ensure that your work is done correctly on the first attempt?" The man muttered under his breath, while Megan's cheeks turned a shade of crimson, yet she maintained her poise. "I sincerely apologize for that. I will attend to it immediately." Rick, having caught wind of the conversation, burst out of the kitchen in a fit of anger. "What's the issue here?" he asked, fixing a piercing gaze on Megan. "It's fine," the customer replied, dismissing him with a wave. "She's managing it with grace." Regardless, Rick shifted his attention to Megan. "How many times must I remind you to verify the orders before they are sent out?" In a sudden movement, Jacob rose from his seat, the chair's legs screeching against the floor, capturing the gaze of everyone around him. "That's enough," he declared, his voice slicing through the atmosphere. Rick glanced at Jacob, his expression contorted with irritation. "And who do you believe yourself to be?" Jacob delved into his pocket and extracted his wallet, flipping it open to display his company ID. His voice carried a serene quality, yet the commanding presence within it was unmistakable. "I'm Jacob Reed," he stated, his gaze firmly meeting Rick's. "This diner is mine, and 13 more just like it." The atmosphere grew still. Megan halted abruptly, her gaze fixed in shock. Connor glanced cautiously from the kitchen, the knife firmly gripped in his hand. The customers appeared to be suspended in anticipation. Rick's complexion shifted from a ghostly white to a deep crimson. "I was unaware." "No, you didn't," Jacob interrupted him. "If you truly understood, you wouldn't be treating my staff or my customers in this manner." Rick faltered, yet Jacob offered him no opportunity to regain his composure. "We need to discuss this in private," Jacob said curtly, gesturing toward the office. Rick paused for a moment, then gave a curt nod and made his way to the kitchen. Jacob trailed behind, stopping briefly to cast a look at Megan. "I won't let this slide," he murmured, a steely resolve in his voice. Inside the office, Jacob closed the door behind him and faced Rick. "Are you aware of how inappropriate your behavior has been?" Jacob inquired, his tone subdued yet resolute. Rick began to speak, but Jacob raised a hand to silence him. "Enough already, just save it. During your 2 years with this company, you've unfortunately fostered a negative atmosphere for your team. Can you imagine the impact that has on morale and customer service?" To the business, Rick cast his gaze downward. His confidence utterly vanished. "Understood," Jacob went on. "This task is quite challenging. However, that doesn't grant you the authority to treat others as you do." Rick swallowed hard. "I know I have the potential to improve, I just need to find the right path." "You're finished," Jacob interjected, his tone decisive. "I am releasing you from this connection." Without delay, Rick's head jerked upward, his eyes filled with surprise. "Hold on, you can't do that." "I can," Jacob asserted with conviction, "and I will. I will ensure that HR takes care of your severance package, but you are no longer with the company." Rick lingered for a moment, caught in a stillness, before giving a curt nod and exiting the office in silence. Jacob let out a breath, his fingers combing through his hair. He found no pleasure in letting people go, yet it was essential. As he re-entered the dining area, every gaze turned toward him. Megan and Connor lingered by the kitchen, their faces reflecting a blend of disbelief and tentative optimism. Jacob inhaled deeply and spoke to the gathering. He expressed his gratitude to everyone for their dedication, his voice unwavering. Changes are on the horizon, beginning today. He fixed his gaze on Megan and Connor. Meet me after your shift, we have something important to discuss. The atmosphere in the room shifted, transforming from tightness to a lively hum of intrigue and comfort. Jacob recognized that this was merely the start, yet for the first time in ages he sensed he was guiding his company toward the right path. Once the final customer departed and the lights in the dining area were lowered, Megan and Connor lingered by the counter, their anticipation hanging in the air as they awaited Jacob's words. The software of the kitchen appliances filled the silence in the room. Both appeared weary, yet a tentative optimism lingered in their expressions. Jacob had dedicated the remainder of the day to watching intently, refraining from any interference, but now the moment had come to take action. "All right, let's sit," Jacob said, gesturing toward a booth tucked away in the back. He slipped into one side as Megan and Connor paused, contemplating before choosing the opposite. Jacob leaned in, his forearms propped on the table. "To begin, I would like to express my gratitude. Today was challenging, particularly with all that was happening, yet you managed to conduct yourselves with grace and consideration. That's certainly a contrast to some of the leadership we've experienced here." Megan cast a fleeting look at Connor, her mind racing for the right words as Connor nervously toyed with the hem of his apron. "I had no idea it had come to this," Jacob confessed, his tone now more subdued. "I take full responsibility for that. I have been rather removed. I built this company to be a place where people feel valued, employees and customers, and somewhere along the way I lost sight of that." Megan finally spoke, her voice hesitant. "There are some silver linings. I've certainly had my share of challenging roles, but this one has been particularly tough. I truly appreciate the customers, but I find myself wishing for something more." Her voice faded, leaving her uncertain about whether to continue. "What do you wish for?" Jacob inquired softly. She let out a weary breath. "I long for a sense of genuine concern, a feeling that someone truly values us beyond just the metrics or the speed at which we can serve." Jacob nodded, absorbing her words along with Connor's presence. "How about you?" Connor raised his gaze, his voice soft yet unwavering. "To be honest, I hadn't intended to linger, but I found it hard to walk away given everything Megan and the others are facing. Support is essential for everyone." Jacob experienced a sharp twinge of remorse. The two of them were the foundation of this establishment, steadfastly maintaining its integrity while he remained ensconced in an office relying on reports and spreadsheets. "Well, that changes now," Jacob declared with conviction. "However, I won't merely state that things will get better, I will demonstrate it to you." Megan and Connor exchanged glances, their eyes reflecting a blend of curiosity and skepticism. "Here's what's going to unfold," Jacob continued. "Initially, I will be introducing a new manager, an individual with experience, yet also one who understands the importance of leading with respect. For now, I will take charge of the situation here until we have everything running smoothly." Megan's eyes grew large with surprise. "So, you're choosing to stay?" Jacob nodded. Connor tilted his head, waiting patiently for as long as it took. "And what about Rick?" "He's not returning," Jacob stated plainly. "I have no patience for that sort of conduct, and you shouldn't either." Connor exhaled softly, a sense of relief washing over him, while Megan's shoulders drooped as though a heavy burden had been removed. Secondly, Jacob mentioned that he is reevaluating the staffing structure. "Say goodbye to the challenges of being understaffed during busy times. We will bring on additional team members, and I will ensure that everyone receives adequate breaks. One cannot effectively serve customers while operating on a depleted reserve." Megan offered a faint smile. "That would be absolutely incredible." Third, Jacob remarked, his voice becoming gentler. "I wish to acknowledge both of you for all your efforts in maintaining the stability of this place." Megan and Connor shared astonished glances. Megan inquired with a hint of hesitation, "Will you reward us?" Jacob gave a slight nod. "Connor, your dedication and ability to lead have been truly impressive, especially considering how brief your time with us has been. I'm pleased to announce your promotion to assistant manager. A raise and more consistent hours are on the horizon for you." Connor's jaw fell open in disbelief. "Are you really serious right now? I have yet to take on any management responsibilities." Jacob beamed. "You're already on the right path. You've been rising to the occasion when others have faltered. That is the essence of true leadership." Connor blinked, his expression a blend of astonishment and appreciation. I don't know what to say." "Thank you," Jacob turned to Megan. "And you, Megan? 8 months of dedication even when things were at their worst. I see how much you care about the customers and your coworkers. You deserve more than just a pat on the back. Megan's eyes shimmered and she quickly looked down, embarrassed. I'm just doing my job. You're doing more than that, Jacob said gently. Starting next week, I'm giving you a significant pay raise. And I want to set up a bonus system for the staff so hard work like yours gets recognized. Megan's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. Really? Really? Jacob said, smiling. The moment neither of them spoke, the weight of his words sinking in. Then Megan whispered, thank you, I mean it. Thank you, Jacob leaned back, his expression softening. You've earned it. As they finished their conversation, Jacob laid out more of his plans to improve the diner. He promised to update the outdated equipment, implement a better scheduling system, and hold regular meetings with the team to hear their concerns. By the time they left the booth, both Megan and Connor looked lighter, as if the tension that had been weighing them down for so long had finally lifted. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Jacob kept his promise, spending several days at the diner, working alongside the staff and listening to their feedback. He personally interviewed candidates for the manager position, eventually hiring a woman named Denise, whose experience and empathetic leadership style quickly won over the team. True to his word, Jacob approved raises for Megan and Connor and brought in 3 new hires to ease the workload. The atmosphere in the diner transformed. Customers noticed the change, service was faster, and the staff seemed genuinely happy to be there. One afternoon, just as Jacob was about to step out for the corporate office, Megan intercepted him at the door. Hey, she said, a smile gracing her lips. I simply wanted to express that this place has a new vibe, an improved one. As if it truly held any significance, Jacob smiled. Your significance is undeniable, and so is your value. As he strolled toward his car, Jacob experienced a wave of pride that had eluded him for years. It transcended mere profits or growth, it became a celebration of the individuals who brought it all to life. He was determined not to let that slip his mind once more.